Since the release of its first season back in February of last year, it didn't take long for Ginny and Georgia to become one of the biggest comedy dramas in the history of Netflix. And with a titular cast of characters, coupled with hilarious consequences, it's no surprise that Season 2 is so highly anticipated. But what should fans know about the future of the show? And why is this heartbreaking? For all this and more, stay tuned. First things first, let's take a look at why the cast and crew are so torn up right now. Despite having filmed just 2 seasons together, the cast and crew of Ginny and Georgia have grown rather close. At least that's what we get from interviews with stars of the show, like Antonia, Gentry, and Brianne Howey, who have both described their fellow cast and crew members as family. This shouldn't be at all surprising considering just how much time they all spend together. So it makes sense that everyone is quite torn up after learning about the loss of one of their own. For those of you who don't know, a camera operator by the name of Lohengrin Zapiain lost his life around a month ago. The news was shared by Scott Porter, who fans of the show will probably know best as Mayor Paul Randolph. After sharing a clapperboard on Instagram reading "In Memory of Lo," he announced the news by saying that the cast and crew lost an incredible man in Lohengrin Zapiain, with Season 2 of the show being dedicated to him and the joy he always brought to the set. He also added that filming without Lohengrin was especially painful, with the cast and crew being reminded of him each and every time someone would clap the sticks before a take. Getting over the death of a loved one is one of the most difficult things any of us will ever have to do, but we're happy to hear that Season 2 will be made in honor of the beloved crew member. But there's a lot more to this story than you might think. Not only will Season 2 be dedicated to the fallen camera operator, a GoFundMe has also been set up in his family's name. This fact was also advertised by Scott Porter in his shocking Instagram announcement, and which he described as one that would help Lohengrin's family as they battle through this tough time without him. The Ginny and Georgia actor went on to implore fans to donate to the fund if they felt so inclined to do so, stating that it would mean the world to the cast and crew to see their fans come together to help one of their brothers out. And by the sound of things, fans have come together in droves. The GoFundMe page shows that around $65,000 has already been gathered, which will be an extreme help for Lohengrin's family, who will now need to discover a way to survive without his steady income. According to reports from the cast members of the show, he was a deeply kind, warm, and considerate man, which leaves behind both a wife and child. No information has been released just yet on what ended up taking his life, but in the end, those aren't details that really matter. We just hope that fans go easy on the showrunners when it comes to demands of release date information and the like. Everyone is still healing after all, and if that means we have to wait a little longer, then so be it. In good Ginny and Georgia news, though, the stats of Season 1 are finally in, and by the sound of things, the show performed exceptionally well for a new release. According to Flix Patrol's Top 10 data, the show actually spent a grand total of 48 days amongst the many Top 10 lists within the United States, with similar data coming out of countries like the United Kingdom, South Africa, and Australia as well. Things get even better than this when you look at the overall picture, though. According to the statistics as of September 2021, Ginny and Georgia ranked as number 6 in a list of the top shows of last year, showing just how much traction it received early on. Funny enough, this was likely the result of Taylor Swift mentioning the show on Twitter, and while she didn't have great things to say about it, there's no doubt that fans and critics of the superstar took to Netflix to immediately see what she was talking about. Never has being accused of using a sexist joke been so useful to a show before, with many investigators staying on to watch the incredible story unfold before their very eyes. And for those of you who don't believe that the Shake It Off artist was to thank for this explosion, take a look at the data. The series debuted as number 14, but it shot up in popularity and settled at number 3 in the week that Swift tweeted about it. She might have even been the reason for the renewal of the show. Speaking of, a video released in celebration of the renewal may be important to us. especially since information on the second season of the show hasn't exactly been forthcoming. For those of you who haven't been paying attention, the extreme popularity of Ginny and Georgia resulted in the show getting the green light of renewal just 2 months after its initial release, which is incredible considering how shows like Bridgerton and The Witcher were placed under heavier scrutiny by Netflix when considering their continuation on the streaming platform. In celebration of the news that the show would be returning for a second season, the showrunners went on to produce a fun video featuring some of the show's cast members. And this is where we believe some information regarding Season 2 might lie. You see, the writers had already started working on Season 2 in anticipation of a second season, so there was an already idea in the air as to which characters would be returning in the future. In other words, we have a strong suspicion that all cast members featured in the celebration video may appear once more when Ginny and Georgia hit our screens. The actors and actresses present within the video include La Taraka as Austin, Raymond Ablack as Joe, Sarah Weissglass as Maxine, Felix Millard as Marcus, Scott Porter as Mayor Paul, and of course Jennifer Robertson as Ellen. We can also expect the return of both Antonia Gentry and Brianne Howey, who played Ginny and Georgia Miller respectively. And considering last season's events, we think we're on the right track. What can we expect from the future plot of Season 2 though? Well, this is a bit hard to say, since next to no information has been released in respect to this anticipated release. We know that a couple of loose ends still need to be tied up, with many viewers desperately wanting to know what Georgia's involvement in the death or disappearance of her previous husband might have been. Is this just a red herring that the showrunners are throwing at us? Or can we expect the show to take a rather dark turn in the future? Only time will tell. We also know that established actor Aaron Ashmore will be joining the cast for Season 2. The majority of you will know him from his many roles in Hollywood, including a brief time in the X-Men universe and as Uncle Duncan in Lock and Key. According to reports, he'll be coming on board to play the role of Gil Timmons, Georgia's ex and Austin's father. For those of you who don't know, Gil has been out of the family's life after he was charged with embezzlement and sent to jail for a short stint. It would seem that he's now out though, and will no doubt be causing trouble for our favorite characters in the season ahead. And if Zion does finally decide to move to Wellsbury to be closer to his kids, things are going to become incredibly exciting to say the least. It's really no wonder fans are so ecstatic to see Season 2 when it finally arrives. Which leads us to our last question: when will Season 2 actually release? Once again, this is a difficult question to answer at the moment. We know that Season 1 was released at the end of February last year, and since Netflix often works on an annual release date for the majority of its titles, many were expecting the release of Season 2 to take place at the beginning of this year. But as of right now, no trailer advertising the season has even been teased. And according to the sleuths of the internet, Ginny and Georgia Season 2 has not been included on the list of series coming to Netflix in March. There's no telling what delays the show experienced because of the coronavirus pandemic. But since nothing was announced, we have a feeling the release is just a few months away. In fact, many are now pointing to April 2022 as the date to save. And there you have it, everything you could possibly want to know about Ginny and Georgia right now. What do you think of the GoFundMe established for Lohengrin Zapiain though? And what are your expectations for Season 2? Be sure to let us know in the comments section down below.